I asked you what the most confusing behavior was that you experienced in your toxic relationship. Let's look at your answers and try to explain and understand what happened and why it happened. And the first thing was toxic behavior out of the blue for no reason. For example, this one. I've been stuck for so many years, I doubt there was just one, but silent treatment for no reason. Almost all narcissists and toxic people will use silent treatment out of the blue for no reason. Why are they doing this? Well, first of all, of course, because they are toxic. This is the only answer you need. They do this because they are toxic. But on a deeper level, with toxic behavior out of the blue for no reason, they strengthen the trauma bond. Or better said, by you allowing this and not standing up for yourself, they strengthen the trauma bond. Toxic behavior out of the blue is part of the intermittent reinforcement. That means that there will be good times, but also out of the blue random toxic times. And when they are randomly toxic out of the blue, they usually will blame you, and you will then try to be better. Try to be perfect and do everything right for them so that the good times can come back. And like this, you buy into them, you try to please them, and they gain more mental and emotional control over you. And this usually happens over a long period of time, again and again and again. Toxic behavior out of the blue, like silent treatment, you try to behave better, be good enough so the good times can come back. Then the good times come back, but they will be toxic out of the blue again soon. It's purely to gain more mental and emotional control over you, which they do every time you don't stand up for yourself, neglect yourself, and allow this to happen. And the next one you mentioned was on and off tree, hot and cold tree, push and pull tree, love and hate, you know what I mean. So let's look at an example. The horrible verbal put-downs only to act nice like nothing happened soon after. So you see the on and off, hot and cold, good and bad, very, very good in this example. First, they put you down, insult you like crazy, and then afterwards, they act like absolutely nothing happened. Why does this happen? Well, of course, because your partner is toxic, but it's also playing into the trauma bonding aspect. And it's also just there to confuse you. It's also a little bit a form of gaslighting. Because by putting you down like crazy and you being all emotionally engaged and feel horrible and then they act like nothing happened, they kind of change your view of reality a little bit. Because you feel like it was so horrible, why is he or she not affected by this at all? And then you question yourself, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I am overreacting because they act so normal, completely nice, like nothing happened. Like this, they change your view of the reality of what actually happened. And this, in essence, is gaslighting. Especially if this happens often over a long period of time. Also, the back and forth, off and on, hot and cold, strengthens the trauma bonding, as I said. Because, again, by you buying into it, not standing up for yourself, allowing it to happen, they gain a little bit more mental and emotional control over you. Another thing you mentioned was loving and suffering at the same time. This can also be very confusing. You know, hey, this is not good, I'm suffering, I need to get out, but at the same time you still love them and cannot emotionally detach. This is because of the trauma bond again. Very important to understand here that you don't actually love them. You are trauma bonded, not in love. The person that you think you love never actually existed. Again, the good times are just there to keep you hooked. It's an essential part of the trauma bond. Loving and suffering at the same time is because you're subconsciously bonded to them. You logically know you need to let go, you need to detach, or what's happening here is not good. But for some reason you can't. And this is because your logical thinking brain does not communicate well with your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is where the problems, where the root cause of your suffering is. So in order to heal, you need to heal subconsciously. You cannot think your way out of trauma or deeper emotional wounds. And I mentioned trauma bonding quite a few times already. So I'll leave a video at the end that explains exactly what trauma bonding is and how it actually works. But for now, it's just important to understand that the hot and cold treatment is an integral part of the trauma bonding. And if you want to stop hot and cold treating me, don't just watch the video, but also leave a like. Okay, that was so horrible again, I'm sorry. Let's forget about that and look at the next thing that you wrote. Always experiencing the same cycle. He was such a good actor and really made me believe that he was sorry and would change. Only to do it all over again. Yes, that's probably the most common thing that narcissists and toxic people do. And after they have hurt you and broken up with you, they will almost always try to hoover back to come back. Why? Because they won't let go of supply. And supply can be as simple as attention. They don't even necessarily want a relationship, but they want attention. Because like this, they know they are still in control over your thoughts and what you do. If they come back with you into a relationship, the exact same cycle will repeat itself. And this proves to them that you are good supply. And on top of that, every time this happens, it strengthens the trauma bond even more. Because every time you again neglect yourself, don't stand up for yourself, buy into their frame, and like this, they gain more and more mental and emotional control over you. This can literally go on for the rest of your life. The exact same breakup cycles, and you feel more and more depleted, lose yourself more and feel worse and worse and worse, till you are literally a shell of yourself, being trapped in this toxic cycle. To learn more about what you can do when the narcissist hoovers to not fall back, I'll leave a video right here. So watch it after you've watched this video. So now let's look at the last thing you said. Constantly blaming you for everything. They are blaming everything on you. You are literally the worst person. Yes, toxic people will never take any accountability. They will blame everything on you or everybody else, but never ever take any accountability themselves. And again, this plays into the exact same trauma bonding scenario, because every time they blame you and you allow that, you don't stand up for yourself, you neglect yourself and let this happen, they gain a little bit more mental and emotional control over you. And you become more and more mentally and emotionally dependent on them. So they blame you because like this, they gain more control over you. So you see, they do almost all of these things to strengthen the trauma bond, to gain more mental and emotional control. But the most important thing here is to focus on yourself, because the real problem is that you allow all of that you don't stand up for yourself, that you neglect yourself in these situations, and that you allow this toxic behavior without putting down a clear, strong boundary. Because if you would do that, this behavior, the trauma bond, the mental and emotional control could never build up. And if you would stand up for yourself, the narcissist or toxic person would not see you as prey. So remember, the most important thing is always self-focus, because you have full control over yourself, what you do, and your healing. If you have further questions, leave them in the comments down below and I'll maybe answer them in one of my future videos. Now I recommend you watch this video over here to understand trauma bonding in depth and to understand better how all of the toxic behavior we just talked about just strengthens the trauma bond.